Hello, beautiful souls. Thank you so much for dropping by this video. To anyone who's new to this channel, a very warm welcome. This channel is dedicated to helping people understand the difference between actual non-duality, also known as Advaita Vedanta, and fake non-duality, called Neo-Advaita. If you're new to this topic, feel free to check out my website, which has an introduction to it and an overview to it. There's a link to the side and below. And to anyone who's new, a very warm welcome. I'm so glad you found this channel. Finding out this information saved my life and saved me from insanity, truly. And a warm welcome back to anyone who's not new. So first off, I just want to say I haven't made a video in a while, and I have thought about this channel and thought about all of you who were on this journey together. I've thought of you often. I've moved, as you can tell. Still got some boxes and new location. And also I've had some technical difficulties, so I haven't been able to broadcast. So it's really warms my heart to be back and to be broadcasting. And another interesting change in my life is I have started formally studying traditional Advaita, traditional non-duality. And when I say studying it, what I specifically mean is I'm studying it with someone who has studied it with a guru. It's completely with an actual guru, an actual traditional guru. It's night and day. I've been, from the first, I think with the first video I made on this channel, I said, Neo-Advaita borrows some ideas from traditional non-duality and then misteaches them. I had no idea. Like, I kind of knew in my gut how different they are, but now I'm getting some of the intellectual understanding of just night and day different. I don't even have words. So here is a key example. So Neo-Advaita will say everything is Maya. Everything is unreal and it doesn't exist. Traditional Advaita says, and the differences is so subtle, but it's so meaningful. Everything we see around us and everything inside of us, except for Atman, except for the self, our thoughts, our feelings, our bodies, our possessions. I was going to say our cats. My cat walked through the room. All of that is made of Maya. And it's not that it doesn't exist. Traditional Advaita has a very specific definition of, and it's not that it's unreal in the English sense of the word, because the English sense of the word unreal means something that doesn't exist, something that's a complete fantasy. Traditional Advaita says that Maya, which I don't even want to, that gets really complicated really quick. So let's just say the objects of the world, including our bodies, including our thoughts and our feelings, are temporary. They are subject to change. The definition in traditional Advaita of real and unreal, real is defined as that which doesn't change. Unreal is defined as that which is subject to change in the past, present, or future. It's very precise. It's very precise. It's the exact opposite of Neo-Advaita. Neo-Advaita is a bunch of people who have had a spiritual experience making up their own teaching using little bits and pieces, their own imprecise teaching, using little bits and pieces of things they've heard and read. Traditional Advaita is so precise, and it has a precise method for teaching, and it has such a precise message. Any traditional text, this is in Sanatana Dharma, the underlying philosophy that we call Hinduism, which really isn't even the accurate word, but regardless, every text has what's called an adhikari. And I'm probably mispronouncing that. Pardon me, my Sanskrit is very, very primitive. And that is, who is qualified to even study this material? Any school of traditional Hindu philosophy is just like a university. They're not going to let you take calculus if you don't know how to add. And they're not going to let you take calculus if you don't know algebra. They're going to make sure you know basic addition and algebra and then algebra 2, and then trigonometry, and what's the one I'm leaving out? Maybe linear algebra, and then comes calculus. Neo-Advaita skips all the preliminary steps and understandings because these, quote, teachers don't have those preliminary understandings, and because they are not enlightened. It's just a show. It's just a show. So that's just one example of, when I finish with this class, I may write a paper on all the differences between traditional Advaita and Neo-Advaita that I've learned just in this class. And I'm going to talk to the teacher and see about potentially, putting out the information for other people who want to take this class. So the other thing on my mind and heart is about spiritual bypass. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Neo-Advaita and so spiritual bypass, very briefly, is using a spiritual teaching or technique in a way that actually is harmful. Here's an example of spiritual bypass. Like, you're in, let's say, an unhealthy relationship, but you're like, well, this is destiny, so I'm supposed to be here. And so you stay in it. And you don't even ask yourself the question, maybe I should leave. Or another way would be you're in an unhealthy, not just relationship, job or business deal or something doesn't feel right. And you say something like, well, everything's in God's hands, so it'll be okay. So you cut off everything below the mind, which does have information for decision making and is necessary for to live and decide based on a spiritual idea. That's why it's called spiritual bypass. You literally bypass the world using spiritual ideas. And Neo-Advaita is just the prime example of spiritual bypass. So in my own journey, I've just gotten very, very clear that I need to put authenticity first. That instead of looking to these various spiritual ideas to guide my life and to make decisions, I need to actually listen to first. I need to listen to my feelings, my visceral reactions to things. And then maybe check in with my spiritual philosophy or not. I'm kind of taking some time off. Interestingly enough, I'm studying traditional Advaita, but it's more I'm studying it to help me recover from Neo-Advaita, not so much to live it right now. Because Neo-Advaita is completely imbalanced in the area of following your head. It's not that then you have to cut off your head and just only listen to your feelings. That's unbalanced. But Neo-Advaita is so far into the head and mind, simultaneously saying, oh, this is about transcending the mind. Well, that's a lie. most forms of Neo-Advaita that I have encountered are literally 100% are like 50% mental and 50% you have this dissociative spiritual state, and then all these ideas about this spiritual state, and most of those ideas are untrue. And so, I've undertaken the study of traditional Advaita in a traditional lineage more so that I can help other people and help myself recover from Neo-Advaita. But along the way, I'm constantly asking, because see, traditional Advaita is a very clear path, right? Like Neo-Advaita is like you go to this satsang and this teacher says this and this book says this and you do this practice, but then this teacher says this, and then you ask the same question, you get a different answer from a different teacher, and it's just like this, like you're constantly like spinning around and around. So traditional Advaita is the exact opposite. It's like going to a well-structured university. And one of the key components is finding one guru and focusing on that one guru and being guided by that one guru. And that guru has very specific qualifications. One of them that they know Sanskrit. I used to think, Neo-Advaita is like, you don't need any education for the non-dual path. Well, as a seeker, you don't, but as a guru, you do. And we're seeing the results. So basically, Neo-Advaita is a bunch of uneducated people, literally uneducated in actual non-duality, teaching what they call non-duality, misteaching, and leading people all over the place. And just contradicting each other left and right. Have you noticed that Neo-Advaita teachers don't hang out together? In traditional Advaita, yes, there is discourse and even debate to some extent, but there's a fundamental resonance and a fundamental understanding, and there's a foundation. Neo-Advaita is like, I'm free, so I'm enlightened, so whatever I say is true. And you have a bunch of people who have that illusionary mindset, and that's why you get so many different messages from different people. Yet Neo-Advaita kind of has a core, but not really. It kind of does. There's some common themes in it. So in this class I'm in, we're studying this text called the Vedanta Sodom, which is, I believe it means the essence of Vedanta. And it's just amazing to me how connected it is to all the other traditional pieces of Sanatana Dharma that I've read. How connected it is to the Bhagavad Gita, how connected it is to the Upanishads, how connected it is to what Adi Shankara taught, how connected it is to what Ramana actually taught. There's a deep integration because if you major in a particular subject, like let's say more of a science such as physics or mathematics or biology, there's going to be some debate and disagreement, right? But there is this fundamental, if you talk to one professor and talk to another, yes, there's going to be some areas of exploration where there's disagreement, but there's a foundation in place upon which there's deep agreement. And then the process, so let's pick one. Let's say biology. And I'm not saying biology is perfect, just using it as an example. So I don't know when the science of biology started. I could look it up real quick. Let's say it's the people have been studying biology for thousands of years, but let's say as a school of thought, let's say it came together around 1500. I'm sure there was stuff before then, but let's say, so, for the last 500-600 years, there's been this conversation, and this conversation has built on itself. People have said things, this is the absolute truth. And then someone else comes along and says, well, that's not the full story. And then a bunch of people debate, and then there comes to be some consensus. And then that gets built upon, and that gets built upon. Well, that's what's been going on in Advaita Vedanta, except it started, I think Adi Shankara was like 850 or so CE/AD. So there's been this conversation going on for about a little over 1,200 years. There's been refinement. Some things are accepted as axioms, meaning fundamental truths, such as what it means to say the world is unreal. There's a very specific meaning of that. And anyone who participates in that conversation, and by the way, Neo-Advaita is not participating. They're doing their own thing. They're like listening in and then going off and doing their own thing. Anyone who listens or participates in that, and here I'm talking specifically about gurus or maybe advanced students, there's some shared understanding and shared language. They have books that you really can't call them scriptures because they're more records of people's experience of exploring this. Neo-Advaita teachers are like trailblazers, which sounds exciting. It really does. Like, hey, I woke up and now I'm gonna like go do my own thing and help other people wake up. If only it worked. If only it worked. How exciting would that be? But it doesn't work. That's why this channel's here. That's why I'm here. That's why many of you are here. People wouldn't be here if Neo-Advaita worked. No one would be here. I wouldn't get some of the emails I've gotten from people about like how they've gone to the brink of insanity. The complete breakdown. And Neo-Advaita is so, excuse my French, fucked up that they'll say things like, oh, well, if you have some kind of like emotional breakdown, that's part of the awakening process. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. Complete nonsense. So that's everything I think I have to say today. If anyone has any questions, feel free to share them. Be happy to take questions or comments. I'll just say it's really delightful to be back. I've missed this channel so much. And, it's really funny. And again, feel free to type in your comments or questions. The first thing, literally, after introductions, one of the first things this traditional Advaita teacher said was that in traditional Advaita, you must know Sanskrit and you must study the Vedas and the text of Vedanta, specifically the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, and the Brahma Sutras. They're like, that's where the conversation began. It was literally one of the first things he said. And, initially I was like, come on, that's nonsense. But as it's been unfolded, as he's been slowly unfolding what traditional Advaita is, I can see why. And he said the reason why is because misunderstanding is so easy. So Hindu philosophy, and I don't even want to call it Hindu because Hindu is a term that outsiders added onto the philosophies of India. But, Western philosophy, it's like, anyone can kind of come in and pick it up and kind of read it and then come up with their own conclusions. Not that their conclusions will be accurate, but that's not how Hindu philosophy is designed. Any of the traditional schools. It's very much a systematic process. And I'm not saying this to discourage anyone from doing your own research, but what I'm saying is, traditionally, you don't study any of the schools of Sanatana Dharma on your own. You find a guru who knows Sanskrit, who knows the various texts, and then who unfolds that for you, and also unfolds it in a way that's going to be unique to you, meets each person where they are. It's definitely not a do-it-yourself process, and especially not Advaita. Now, could a rare soul who studied this in the past come in with that knowledge and insight and pick it up on their own? Of course. And even Adi Shankara had a guru. So let's see. Anna, hi. Hi, Arthur. I've been benefiting from your work. I least have, I think, with a Neo-Advaita experience. I will keep following your work. Thanks for saying hi, Anna. I'm so grateful that you found this, and stay tuned for more. On my website, I have a link if you want to be on my email list. And thanks for saying hi. I'm so grateful to hear it's benefited you. This understanding saved my life. And now that I'm actually studying traditional Advaita, it's just becoming more and more and more clear how Neo-Advaita is not non-duality. I've said that many times before. And now that I'm actually engaging in traditional Advaita. I'm not under a guru, but I'm under a teacher who is under a guru. And engaging in it in a traditional way, I don't even have words for, I basically said they're like this. It's more like they're like this. They're so far apart, not just in what's taught, but the methodology by which it's taught. I mean, the teachings are like night and day, but the container for the teaching and the approach to the teaching, just absolute night and day. Wow, got 5 people. I was gonna finish up, but if anyone has any comments or questions, feel free. All right, I'm not seeing any. So I'll just close. I'll just kind of summarize. So I've recently started studying Advaita in a traditional manner under a teacher who is under a guru. And I'm looking for the words to try and convey how different it is from Neo-Advaita. And I've shared some bits and pieces here. For example, the definition of real and unreal, the methodology, the making sure that the student is qualified, the fact that it's not just individuals like making shit up. Traditional Advaita is individuals who are part of a conversation, who are highly educated. Neo-Advaita teachers don't like to talk about this, but Ramana Maharshi was constantly reading traditional Advaita texts and translating them and referring to them. Ramana Maharshi was very unusual in that he had a spontaneous awakening. And so Neo-Advaita teachers, I think they think like, oh, like I'm like Ramana. I don't need to go through the traditional system. Yeah, but the difference is Ramana was an embodiment of the truth. He didn't go around giving talks, right? Like he was an embodiment of detachment and peace. I've shared many times the story of a Neo-Advaita teacher who was in a Neo-Advaita satsang, and the Neo-Advaita teacher looks around the room and he's like, Adi Shankara, Ramana Maharshi, Nisargadatta Maharaj. They're no different than any of you. And that's Neo-Advaita at its worst, because it's 50% true and 50% horrifically false. And so I think the other thing that is so important for me to, I wish I'd started with this. I try to remember to start with this, but maybe it's my ego. I'm not a guru. I'm delighted that I have so many people who follow this channel and are benefiting from this work. My intention here is to educate people about the difference between Neo-Advaita and Advaita and point them in the direction of traditional Advaita. And that's not my job. I'm not qualified to teach Advaita. And neither are any of these Neo-Advaita teachers. They just think they are, incorrectly think they are. And none of them can participate in the actual Advaita conversation, right? Like there's a reason why traditional Hindus and traditional Hindu swamis won't have anything to do with Neo-Advaita because they recognize it as nonsense. But two traditional Advaita teachers who've never met, they find each other as long as they speak the same like actual language, like maybe they both speak Hindi or maybe they both speak English, they can have a riveting conversation because they've gone through a discipline that has led to an awakening, but they also have gone through a rigorous study that allows them to talk about that which is not. You can't talk about Brahman. You can't talk about the Supreme. You can't talk about the self fully. That's part of the problem. Like it's like talking about space. Like how do you talk about space in a way that actually captures what space is? How do you talk about consciousness in a way, and you can't. And so actual Advaita Vedanta is this beautiful philosophy of like how to talk about the thing that you can never fully talk about, that words will never encapsulate, but not just how to talk about it, how to know it directly, but not just how to know it and how to integrate it into your lived daily experience. And that's maybe one of the virtues of Neo-Advaita, is it will give you a taste of the self, of the communion or union of the self with the absolute. It'll give you a taste, but what it won't do is teach you how to integrate that into your day-to-day life. And worse, it'll probably take you in a downwards direction with its many, many false teachings. Hi, Frank. Thank you. My friend thinks you are in it for the money since you are charging for consultations. I used to charge for consultations, and I don't anymore. And that's one of the reasons, was to keep my motive pure. And so what I do now, I don't do one-on-one consultations how I used to. And first of all, just thank you for saying that. Thank you for just being very direct. That's also what Neo-Advaita is not. It's very not direct. They say it's the direct path, but Neo-Advaita cannot have a direct conversation if their life depended on it. I used to do one-on-one consultations. People would email me and set up a time, and I had a set rate, and it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel right. So what I do now is, if someone wants my help, I ask them to email me, share a little bit about what's going on, and I'll make a video response directly to them. I'll send them a personal message, and I ask for a donation amount up to them. And I'm doing that for two reasons. One is to keep myself pure, and the other is it just didn't feel right. I did it with 3 different people with a set price, and it just didn't feel right. So I appreciate that direct communication, Frank. And I'm thinking of switching to the traditional Advaita modality, which is at the teacher. There's this understanding that if you go to a teacher, again, I'm not an Advaita teacher. You go and money isn't even talked about, and you just learn and learn and learn, and the teacher supports you. And there's this understanding that at some point, if you benefit, if you don't benefit, you leave, right? If you benefit, at some point, you give a gift to that teacher. And I'm thinking of going to that. That feels the purest to me. So thanks for bringing that up, Frank. Wolfgang, thank you for saying hello. Swami Sarva Priyananda. Wolfgang, I'll get to you in a moment. I'm going to finish up with Frank. I cannot activate comments on this YouTube channel. You have no idea. It just, for a couple reasons. One is I just get comment after comment after comment. And the thing is it's just too much. There's one of me, and I have 800 subscribers. And then it's not just subscribers. People come by, they don't think about what they want to say, and then they're just like, duh, 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 duh. And then to boot, YouTube, it's very hard to follow treads. If, let's say you leave a comment and I respond, and let's say you respond to my response, YouTube won't tell me that you've responded to my response. So I'm working on that, and actually I have an idea for it. And actually I'm in conversation with another person who's working on helping. Actually, I've mentioned before, Jessica Nathanson at the Glorious Both And. We're kind of in conversation. She has some ideas for how to address this. And thirdly is I don't want to receive comments from everybody. I want to receive comments from people who are serious. And I don't mean that to put people down, but I just don't have the bandwidth. And back when I had comments on, 3/4 of the comments were just hate, and I just got tired of it. And I'm also an empath, so I really feel people's words very strongly. So again, Frank, I just want to celebrate what you're doing. This is one of the key differences between Neo-Advaita and any traditional spiritual path, is having an open, honest, and direct conversation. So thank you. Neo-Advaita is all about having a disembodied conversation. So thank you so much, Frank, for just being real. Neo-Advaita is all about all of this is unreal. but Neo-Advaita is unreal, and they can't carry on a real conversation to save their life. Like, go to a Neo-Advaita satsang and like talk about your relationship problems. That'll be shut down in a minute. And I've told this story before, and I'll tell it. I'll never get sick of telling it. The first traditional Advaita teacher who I had a direct conversation with, I walked up to him. It was in a Hindu temple. Hello. I asked him if he was available to talk. He said yes. And I just told him a little bit about myself. The first thing he said to me is, "Tell me about your family." That was the first thing he said to me. And that's traditional Advaita. It's a holistic process. Holistic means encapsulating all aspects of our being. Neo-Advaita is the opposite of holism, holism. Is completely dualistic. So Wolfgang, Swami Sarva Priyananda, Frank, not yes, they can, but not on YouTube. I'm talking to Jessica, and she's kind of taking the lead on it. But I'm very open to interacting with people, but not just like in a public forum where anyone can just show up and we're working on it. And see, that's the thing though. And Wolfgang, I will get to you. And I think I know who you're talking about. See, that's the thing, is non-duality is not a casual process. Traditional non-duality. And Neo-Advaita has made it this like, hey, like, come to a satsang and I'll tell you you don't exist. And I'll tell you this spiritual practice and you go do that. And it's turned this, I use the analogy of going to get a degree in a college. It's a formal process. It's not a chit-chat kind of thing. And neither is recovering from Neo-Advaita. And so I'm still trying to figure out what's the most effective way. See, because there's so many things here. So Advaita Vedanta is not a casual process, and neither is the process of recovery from it. And the truth is I'm still trying to figure out, I'm still in my own recovery process from it. Because some of us got completely gutted by Neo-Advaita, like gutted to the point of nervous breakdown, suicidology, near insanity, like completely lost. And so I'm still figuring out, like, what's the pathway out of this? And I have a very clear model, and I've posted it on my website. And but then the second thing is, and how can I help other people out of this? That's something I'm still discovering. And so your points are very valid, and I take them seriously, and I'll reflect on them. And it motivates me to talk more to Jessica, to see where she's at with this, and to create something where there can be. But there's this bigger question of how to recover from Neo-Advaita, and then to not turn it into where I'm not an Advaita teacher. I'm a Neo-Advaita educator. I teach just enough traditional Advaita to get people hopefully interested in traditional Advaita. So Wolfgang, someone who has helped me a great deal of accessing Advaita is Swami Sarva Priyananda. If it's who I'm thinking of, I have him listed on my website under resources. I've watched some of his videos. I have a very good feeling about him. Yes, he's on my website. I have the utmost respect for Ramakrishna, who Swami Sarva Priyananda is in that lineage. And so, and I think, Wolfgang, you've actually posted this in a comment. And I've made another, I think I've made a video response to that comment. Yeah. And Frank, by the way, like, dude, drop me an email, no charge. I'd be happy to dialogue with you. I'm open to people's suggestions. I'm not just going to instantly say yes, but like, just the fact that you are willing to just speak your mind, I mean, that's meaningful to me, and I'm open to your thoughts. And I hope you're open to my responses, but I mean, I sometimes think I'm going to have to become a traditional Advaita, not have to, but almost like it's inevitable, so that I can become even more a part of the system. Yeah, thanks, Frank. I look forward to it. Yeah, Wolfgang, if you're the person I'm thinking of, I believe I read your comments. And that's the thing. Once I respond to the comments, then the comments disappear. So it's just not the best system for having dialogues. But let me see. I think Wolfgang, I think I received a comment from you a long time ago, and I think I responded to it, so it probably disappeared. I'm just going to take a peek here. Yeah, see, I think you responded. I think I responded, Wolfgang, and it vanished. But just give me one moment, just for the sake of curiosity. And maybe not. Maybe I'm confused. Yeah, I'm not seeing it right now. Maybe it was someone else. But thank you. Oh, okay. I knew your name was familiar. Yeah. Thank you. So, and here's the last warning I'm going to give. One of the reasons Neo-Advaita is so captivating is it's sexy, right? It's like, just inquire, or there's nothing to do since you already are that. It's like this dramatic, like, captivating, and it makes Advaita seem so easy and so simple, and like, you don't have to do anything, you don't have to study. It's like very good advertising for Neo-Advaita to like keep you in the loop. Traditional Advaita is like going to a university. It's systematic, it's slower, it's progressive. So if you go check out Swami, make sure I pronounce his name right, Sarvapriyananda's videos, it's much more chill. So this class I'm taking, again, it's led by someone who's under a traditional guru. It's systematic. So each class now, he reviews the key points from the previous classes, because it's about building a foundation. Advaita Vedanta is like radical soul surgery. It's not something to hop into casually. Yeah. All right, beautiful souls. I've missed this channel so much, and what I miss more than anything is the dialogue, the back and forth. So, and other people's input. So that's all I got for today. And thank you, Wolfgang and Frank, for sharing, and Anna, though I know she dropped off. Appreciate her saying hello, sharing a little bit. And gonna really sit with your thoughts, Frank. Wolfgang. So, dude, that's my favorite. I'm gonna copy your quote. I'm not gonna use your name, but I'm gonna post that. That's amazing. I sometimes watch neo-vids just to be informed. To me, they are most like brainwash stuff. That's exactly what it is. Neo-Advaita is brainwashing. It's not like brainwashing. It is brainwashing. I've come to that conclusion. I'm not the only one who has. It's brainwashing in that once you go far enough into the Neo-Advaita system, you are caught. You know, it's like, why do I do this? I'm on video like 300. The reason why I do it is because I was fucking caught. I knew, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I knew for like in 2004, I was like, wait a minute, this isn't right. And it took me till like 2018, 2019 to break out. It took me 14 or 15 years. And of course, I was in it for another 5 or 6 years, even before I realized it was nonsense. That's why I do this. Neo-Advaita is not like getting a math problem wrong. Like, let's say you learn how to add incorrectly, and then someone can just teach you. Like, let's say you learn that addition is subtraction, which is really a great metaphor for what Neo-Advaita is. They're teaching math, and they're like, to add, you subtract. So it might be confusing, but if someone could teach you, like, no, actually, here's how you do addition. And you're like, wait, but I thought it was this. And they're like, well, no, actually, it's this. And then they point you to the math book and you're like, oh, and like has the pictures and like the numbers get bigger. And you're like, oh, that's what addition is. That's what I'm trying to do. Except I'm trying to connect people to traditional Advaita teachers who can unpack the traditional system, because it's a little more complicated than addition and subtraction. It's absolutely brainwashing. Thank you for that. I'm fired up. Thank you everyone for sharing. Big love to all of you. Frank, thank you for your ideas. Wolfgang, thank you for your participation. Big love to everyone. Take care. Catch you soon.